Nellie and I chose a topic this week of popular question mark. And ever since we chose that, the song that's running through my mind is from Wicked, the two witches, and they sing a comedic version of a song called Popular, and it's funny, and it also has really the right mark of tension between external popularity and paying attention to your inner authenticity. But that's not going to be what my talk is about this morning. It's just running alongside of this. So I'm going to start with a definition of popular because I found three, which I thought was interesting, is we rarely get just one definition of something when we look it up anymore. But it comes from a Latin word, populus, meaning people. And one definition is that your it or whatever is widely liked or admired, meaning something that many people approve of, and it gets a lot of kudos for being approved by the masses, so to speak. And actually, popular became quite a popular song. It's one of Ariana Grande's most famous at the time. But a second meaning is common or widespread. So something is popular when it spreads widely, and it's often considered a belief that's widely held. And the third definition is of the people, and that means it's relating to ordinary people rather than just an elite few. And I like that definition. I really felt like, okay, actually, we're quite popular. Or as I would see it, I would want us to be popular in this way with an appeal, a practice that appeals to ordinary people. Ordinary folks could do this practice. And in that way, it would embody, and I think reflective meditation does embody an attribute of the Dharma, which is that it's open and inviting. And that it's literally a come and see practice. Come and see, examine and investigate for yourself. And this feels like a real open invitation to anybody that comes in and anybody that encounters our practice. But I'll go back to one thing that's not so popular in our practice is talking about experience. Talking about meditative experience. It's often vague and confusing what happens in meditation. It's not always that clear. It doesn't look so good. We're so used to interpreting it or wrapping it up or making sense of our experience, and even knowing what we should share from our meditative experience is not so certain. That where there's lots of pauses. People reflect upon not sure how to say this, not sure how to get at it. We used to have people send us journals, so we would read all their thoughts and feelings. A few of you remember those days, and that was just way too much, and even more confusing. So speaking about your meditation experience, it's not an exercise in finding certainty. It is an exercise in investigating the Dharma, investigating your experience. But certainty is very popular. It's a popular idea, and it feels really good when somebody can certainly tell you something, even if they don't really know what they're talking about. So, certainty in history has a very interesting arc, especially in Dharma. The certainty in Dharma history. And we've gone through cycles of certainty and then reactions to that certainty. So recently I'm reading Stephen Batchelor's Buddha, Socrates, and Us, Ethical Living in Uncertain Times. And he devotes an entire chapter to one of my favorite Buddhist philosophers, Nagarjuna. And if you haven't heard of Nagarjuna, I would check check him out. He reacted to the way the Dharma was being taught at his time. He saw it as being turned into dogmatic belief. And what that did for him was it reinforced his reactivity to it rather than easing it. It wasn't so open and inviting. It was a constant pushing up against the Dharma. And I use reaction here very deliberately because he listened to his reactions, his thoughts, his feelings, his body sensations, and sense impressions. And he let those reveal his critiques because he made some excellent critiques about the Dharma at that point. And on a parallel process, we learn to listen to our own reactions in meditation, letting them unravel and become something wiser. And then speaking about them, not with certainty, but letting them unfold and letting that conversation be an exploration. So Nagarjuna saw that rather than the teachings at his time, rather than being a cure, they had become part of the sickness. And rather than dispelling illusion, they risked becoming the grandest spiritual illusion of all. And I think we try to do this. I think we try to wear away at the ideals of the Dharma and where they've hit us that way. And so our reactions are somewhat like critiques of, that's too extensive or out of my experience. I can't really enter that. So this is a paragraph I liked from Stephen's book. So Nagarjuna shocked his readers with the possibility that Buddhism could be thought and spoken in a radically new way. By reconfiguring the core ideas and the values of Dharma and articulating them in his own voice, he showed what it was like to be rooted in a tradition without deferring entirely to authority. He recognized that the Buddha had no interest in discovering an absolute truth, but rather offered a Dharma that helped people respond more effectively, creatively, and compassionately to the unpredictable contingencies of life. So in a way, our small corner of practice, I feel, echoes Nagarjuna's middle way, not clinging to that certainty, not rejecting tradition, but letting the teachings breathe through our own words and experiences. And in that way, reflective meditation, I see it as, of the people, though not in the most popular sense of the popular definitions of popular, right? Does that make sense? It grows quietly in conversation, in the hesitations that we have to speak about our experience, and the honest wonderings that come up after our meditation experience. And it shows up in these mornings together when someone speaks, from their own life, and we listen. We listen not to be convinced of something, but to understand that person's experience more deeply. And we don't take it as completely accurate or completely complete, and not with a certainty of capital T truth, but it's a real richness of understanding that comes between us, and it's rooted deeply, I think, in Dharma teachings. I will end here this morning and look forward to hearing about your experience after we meditate.